The rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Every journey begins with a simple act of care. For Quest to Unite Africa, that journey started with something simple: a mother, a newborn, and a promise that no life would be forgotten. We did not begin with buildings, we began with people. We packed mother newborn kits with our own hands because real change starts where the need is greatest. Those kids traveled farther than we imagined, and they opened our eyes to a deeper truth. Aid saves lives, but infrastructure saves generations. So we grew. Together with donors, volunteers, and partners, we sent a medical container to Burkina Faso. Not just supplies, but hope. Not just boxes, but proof that when a community comes together, healing moves across borders. That moment changed us because we realized something powerful. We weren't just delivering help, we were building a future. Now the journey continues. The next chapter is bigger than a shipment, bigger than a campaign. We are raising funds to build a state-of-the-art hospital, a place where mothers can give birth safely, where families can find care close to home, and where communities can grow stronger for generations to come. This hospital is not just a structure, it's a promise. A promise that healthcare will no longer be temporary. A promise that dignity will have a permanent home. And just like every step before, we cannot do this alone. Every gift, every brick, every name placed on the founder path becomes part of a story that began with compassion and is growing into legacy. It helps us move from emergency aid to lasting healing, from containers to care that never leaves, from vision to reality. Join us, stand with us, help us build a hospital that will serve generations, moving healthcare into action. Visit q2ua.org today.
All right. Shalom. Salama. Tiemi. Shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether you're of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you're a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. Boy, oh boy. I wasn't surprised that the U.S. had a strike on Iran yesterday. And I would say that I think we all saw that coming. My thought process was it was going to happen, obviously, a little earlier in the weekend or in the week. Or excuse me, the weekend, around like either that Friday evening, early Saturday morning time frame. But I do have to say that, especially with the news of the Pope, and I'm going to tell you that they are trying to quickly hide that news story of, I wouldn't say the century, I would say the millennia. And they wanted to coincide with artificial intelligence and the human dignity for artificial this and that, because again, what they don't want to actually show you is that there is a bigger play to this, because of course they're not going to explain it. So if you're not going to have it explained to you, they know that 99% of the people are not going to truly be able to articulate how big that is, because of the intentional analysis or lack of analysis that they give us. Because, right, well, here's the problem and here's the solution. Here's the problem. Let's think about the solution. No, you don't. I laugh. No, you don't. You want to know why? Because I laugh about that, because I'm teaching 8th graders that you don't have the analytical value that you think you have. Now, there are a lot of 8th graders very, very creative, very understanding, they're thinking outside the box, they're using their brains, they're understanding the problem sets, and I would tell them that is an excellent answer. Unfortunately, that's not the answer that they want to have. And then they would argue with me and they'd say, well, Mr. Copeland, why would that not be plausible? And I said, it is plausible. I said, to be honest, that is a great answer. But the problem is, it's not in the curriculum. And I would tell them that. I'd say, but listen, I like your analysis. I see where you're going, and it is a very good analysis. I said, but the problem is that they don't want you to think that way, so you have to think this way. So I'm just letting you know that that's how you're being programmed. You tell your students that they're being programmed? I absolutely do. And I tell them that, and I said, understand, I'm trying to program you so you don't get easily programmed into being another interface inside this new Borg system that they want. I said, because it's coming. I am a very interesting teacher in all accounts. And then they'll come back to me in a week or two and they said, you know what, Mr. Copeland, I saw the article. I was reading something and I was like, that's what Mr. Copeland was talking about. And I said, yeah, exactly. Because keep in mind that teenagers want to know, they want to be informed. They want to understand different things. They're trying to get the understanding because obviously you have a generation to where Google was able to give quick answers. And then I started to, question that a while ago. Why do they want the quick answers? Well, the quick answers is it programs you. It programs you so that you're not able to develop and understand that the toil that gets you to the correct answer is the learning process. Red and I used to have these conversations all the time. And I would take, the objective stance of the positives and the negatives. And I understood the conditioning that we would all be in because we have always been conditioned this same way. I was looking at something earlier this morning, and it seemed to me it was an exchange student, of an African exchange student, and he was on the University of South Carolina, and he was in front of um, a bunch of white folks. It's University of South Carolina. I mean, it's in Columbia. And I understood where the professor was going, and the professor was talking about the context of religion, and I'm pretty sure that it was some sort of a theology lesson that was being taught out on the grounds. It wasn't in a classroom per se, and the reason that it wasn't in the classroom and being taught off grounds is because there are different legal formalities to that because of what was actually being said and being discussed. And the African man, clearly African, clearly had the accent, and he was bringing some truth bombs, and he was saying, "Listen," he said, "Look, Christianity is not a European religion; that it's an African religion." And it was adopted by Europeans to put in their culture and their culturalisms and syncreticisms. And I laughed because he was dropping everything about the truth bombs. And he said, so what color did Jesus look like? It was a white professor that said that too. And you can clearly see he threw that poor African man under the bus. And I said, I see what he tried to do. Okay. We got the point across. You were able to answer some of these truths, but I'm going to I'm going to discredit. Those are the logical attenuations. The little type of logical disruptions. When you attenuate, it's to disrupt the signal or disrupt the pattern of the signaling of a particular frequency. So the attenuation that happened there was that there was truth coming out, but in front of a bunch of white folks and you just threatened their cultural identity, which is a religious identity. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're Hindu or you are a Caucasian person that practices all sorts of other faiths. It doesn't matter. Have you noticed that? It doesn't matter. Go ahead and talk to an atheist and be like, hey, you know that we're the people and Jesus looked just like me. He looked like a black man. Matter of fact, he was darker than dark. Matter of fact, oh, well, I don't believe that. Well, why are you having an argument? You shouldn't really even have a say-so or an opinion because you're an atheist. He would say that he doesn't have the religious value, but he knows that the religious value is what empowers him to do whatever he wants to do. It's not about the religion at the core. It's the cultural adaptation to be able to have the empowerment and the authority of what is deemed a power. If it wasn't so powerful, then why did it get taken from Africa? See, understand you steal a cultural identity because it's the culture, and then you finish it on up a couple hundred years later and you steal a people so then you can wear and identify and have all of the cultural stipulations placed on you, even though you may know the truth about matters. Well, it's this. Well, it's that. Well, you know that you know that you know that you know. Well, what color is Jesus? What he's Jewish, kind of dark. Because why? Because that white person, that Caucasian man, understood how to destroy the credibility of the situation. See, that was one of those. Oh well, uh, mm, and you have to understand that's the ideal isms. I have to say, I think it was Convo Space. Shout out to Convo Space. She had provided that earlier, or Eugene documentaries, docu stories, and I do try to give these other YouTubers the credit for when I'm critiquing and analyzing their work. Because when they're talking about all of the videos and everything else, and I get it because they have a different analysis. And I'm not going to say that their analysis is very shallow, but it's a little more unique. It's a little bit more subdued. And you have to understand that they are still living under a very much, very neo-colonialist situation. And for those that have ever visited East Africa, West Africa, it truly is. They know of the Ethiopian Bible, but it's it's so strong that they are self-inflicted. I.e., they know that they're the people. They know that their customs and their cultures reside in that book, but they also know that they get played against. their shortcomings and failures, which caused them to be in the situation that they're in. You know, it's funny that we talk about bullying and being bullied and everything else, and I never hear that application being played or paid to any of us that we have been spiritually bullied. And we don't want to say that we're spiritually bullied because we try to act like we have all this authority and power, and we don't. It's an act. One of the biggest con games that I would say is here in America is that they try to say, oh, yeah, you are powered, you are empowered. And the reality is, no, you're not. If you're empowering yourself in a system that does not want you empowered, then the reality is that they're throwing out keywords to have you pacified. It's pacification. Black power, yeah, stand up to the man, black, yeah, it's this. The Pope just issued an apology for a transatlantic slave trade. Well, I don't know, it doesn't have anything to do with me because, I'm a Native American, I'm Cherokee, Blackfoot, Redfoot, Bluefoot, Slutefoot. Choctaw, Hee-haw, Yeehaw, you name it, I'm all that. I got it in the family somewhere. What? When I was telling you about Stockholm Syndrome, it's real. All they did was just really qualify what we've been going on, what's been going on to us, and how these other nations have joined in on the police state of the multi-generational order. And when you tell that to people, what does that mean? That means that the Catholic Church was recruiting people to come over here to have us in perpetual slavery as a glorified penal colony. That can't be. It is, and it was. And now they're getting mad that their terms and conditions that their ancestors had signed on the dotted line. Well, you're going to do this to them, and then we're going to do it to you. What? Oh, don't worry, but that's only in your fifth, sixth generation. Don't worry about it. Enjoy your life. Rule over these Negroes and do what you want. And now all of a sudden, when really not just the the chickens have come home to roost, it's not even that. It's now judgment time. Because again, we always think that, in judgment, it always has to be about some sort of tactical operation that exploits military might and prowess that leads to booms and bangs and other explosions like a Hollywood film. It needs to be a black man like Solo going and running through the jungles. And now you're starting to understand It's a little bit more than that. It's literally this challenges them to their core. Remember when I was talking about the moral supremacy and the moral code that white folks have established? I was talking about this well in great lengths, even up until the start of the Iran conflict. I would say the Strait of Hormuz conflict. It was always a moral supremacy, a moral code, right? Well, we have the moral high ground, and you understood that they didn't have the moral high ground, especially when you had all the PDF files and all of the island links, and everybody knew that. And I said they got exposed, and now they're going to have to lash out because that's their MO. I wasn't saying anything provocative. I'm just was stating the truth. And now you started to see that their moral high ground began to slip and decay, and they got scared and they panicked. This was the panic button. You're now seeing the panicked response. It just doesn't come from the US. It comes from all echelons of this empire. It's just down the line is the US. And if you don't understand how this system works, when people say, "Oh, you getting mad at Trump?" No, I don't even care. Trump was placed there to be whatever and however they needed to have the scapegoat. The reality was placing the scapegoat because they did not want to equate the moral decays and conditions straight with the Catholic Church, because then it is the Catholic Church and its universal proxies, and that also includes Protestants with it. Don't get it twisted. And that also includes governments. Don't get it twisted. So now, more than likely, you're going to see everybody start to jump ship. Hey, I'm sorry. Yep, we're sorry. Yep, we're sorry. You're going to start to see people take an accountability because they know they're standing, except for the scapegoat. Because you have to also understand that everything that was done with the MAGA and the whole MAGA movement and everything else, you all understood that they were being shaped to harden their hearts. So even when the truth came in a white pill bottle with a Dagon cap representing Babylon and the beast system that is in the halls of the serpent, with literally the serpent design, giving an admonition. Don't think that it was because they really wanted to. It was because they know the signs and the seasons, as we had explained, and they came on out with that, which now has people scratching their heads of how close are we really? Because nothing is done with them for an altruistic motive. It's not. So understand what that also means. And somebody had alluded to that in the chat. I always tell people, can you really get reparations? Or I would tell this, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. You can never sue for wrongful imprisonment. Let's say You get on out of prison because you were wrongfully convicted for 26 years. Would that seem ridiculous if they said, hey, you need to go because we wrongfully convicted you? You're serving time, a sentence that you are not supposed to serve. We took away your freedoms in life. We messed up your mental processes because you had to adapt to these austere conditions, which was, limiting your human rights. And we're trying to make you whole again. And you say, yep, I was a victim. I was victimized. You owe me money. Make sure that that money is put on my commissary. Can I go back to my cell now? I got a dominoes game. I got some card games. I need to be back for lockdown and lights out. I need to be back for for late chow and all this other stuff. That would make zero sense. So then why do our people have that same analogy? Oh man, hey, you got a couple $1 million and you chose to stay in here? Yeah, because this is my life. This is all I ever known. You don't get restorative justice when you're still in the system that was inherently designed to enslave you, mind, body, and soul. Souls of men. Oh, we tend to miss that in Revelations chapter 17. Why do you think they're putting up these digital systems, these data centers? Because why? Because they have to change the system. Because why? Because everybody is now going to be enslaved for those that remain. Well, this data center should be up and going. What is their target? 2030. I wonder why there's a 2030 target. I wonder why. Again, my personal thoughts. I believe that more than likely within the next 90 days, there will be an announcement of sorts that recognizes the universal rights, all of this other stuff that will try to ensure the successful repatriation, reappropriation, rehabilitation of black folks. And like I said, for those that will leave, they will leave. Those that will stay, well, guess what? I wouldn't choose to stay because that nation will then be in decline. Well, we're on digital everything and we're on robotics and we're on. That doesn't give a good quality of life. It just means that it automates a semblance of a quality of life. You're getting it automated at its lowest level. I think about the cartoon of the one man that's in a camp and the drones come on over and the drones deliver his food and he goes, puts it in the microwave, and then he watches the news. He's entertained in his little structure. He can't even go outside. He can't even say hi to his neighbors. And there are people that are expiring all around him. They come through with the dump trucks to get people's bodies on out. And he just has an apathetic look. Because he's being programmed to not ask questions. This is what their society has been. They've been programmed to not ask questions. But boy, oh boy, leave it to us, these pesky Negroes. You realize that you're going to go down here. You realize that this is going to happen. You realize. I can't see it. And then when it happens, I get this all the time at work. When it happens, man, you called it. Wow, how did you? I'm like, the writing was on the wall. Yeah, this, and this, and this, and this. Oh, well, yeah, boy. What do you think's going to happen next? And I don't waste my time. I just say, I don't know. I'm as clueless as you are. We'll see. Because it's not about genuinely wanting to know what happens next. It's about being able to identify someone that they can blame. You seem to know all this stuff that's happening. You're the problem. Do you get that? How did you know that this? How did you know that? Well, how do we get back to normal? And see, that's what they want to hear. How do we get back to normal? What does normality look like? How do I get to the top how do I get back to the reality of I'm on the top and you're on the bottom? I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. Look, the Pope done told you. Your theocratic system of rulership at the core has always been rotten. What the Pope just did, he admitted it. What that did is that actually revealed your nature and your character that you all did not want to reveal. So now it's like this. We ain't got to say nothing. You all realize that, right? We can literally say, all right, time to pack it up. Our job is done. I'm awaiting, going back home. We said what we needed to say. We done told you. We're done. We're just going to wait for the fallout, and that fallout is going to be you all in self-destruction mode. And we know how you all get in self-destruction mode. So we're just going to gracefully bow up on out of here. Truthfully, we could. We could do that, truthfully. But I'm going to say this, there's going to be a lot of Gentiles that's going to be scared and confused and anxious and that really do want to have the truth. Because now their worlds are shattered. Shh. That's a shattering. Happy Memorial Day. Hot dogs are slipping out of buns. Hamburger stains are being worn on their shirts. as they're contemplating the reality. Oh, it's not that not only does nobody like us, but nobody's actually indulging in our lie anymore. Do you understand that that is the quintessential aspect of their behaviors? And for Gentiles listening in the back, I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm not. I'm just trying to give an understanding to our people that see the actions but may not understand what makes those actions tick. There's something that makes their actions tick. And you have to be fair and objective in understanding that now that they have had their whole life exposed, now there's going to be extremism. Why do you think that they're doing all this and doing all that? Extremism. Donald Trump, if it wasn't for you, our life could have been easy. We would have been able to stay on top. We would have been able to not be judged. We would have been able to not be exposed. That's the reality. The exposure is coming off. So what do you think he's going to do? Well, back in 2015, it was all Obama's fault. Obama had these Negroes out of control. These Negroes started to wake up because of Obama. These Negroes started to research things that these Negroes shouldn't have done. And we're going to put them back and we're going to keep them in chains and we're going to take away, and they're doing it now, education. They're doing that now. I'm in the classroom. I see it. I look at it. Oh, you're not going to explain this? You're going to explain that, but you're not going to explain this? You're not going to look at history? Do you even know that they don't even teach about European history? Why? Because they're trying to not make connections. Why do you think they have a new brand of Christianity all of a sudden? With all of these sham religious revivals on the White House lawns. Why? Because they're losing the high ground. They lost the high ground. They knew that they were going to lose the high ground. They don't have a moral argument anymore. And now, yes, for our people, that would be more enterprising and trying to harm and dehumanize and demean. A lot of our people are going to put themselves in the harm's way by vexing people and being mean-hearted and cruel. Well, you want to know what? They were cruel to us. Well, you want to know what? We were cruel to Yahusha. Don't cast that first stone because no one's without sin. This is for us to literally be a light to the nations. No, we're not saying to heal Babylon. This place, look, do you understand? That was an incurable wound. She suffered an incurable wound. That was a self-deletion yesterday. And we're seeing the bleed out. Because now it's going to go, because you got to remember, the debasement of what they're thinking. Well, hey, if we're always the wicked people, then we're just going to continue to be wicked, right? Their wickedness will propagate more wicked. This is going to be a rift like no other. The question that I have is, will Gentiles, both the Protestants and the Catholics, will they start to tear at each other, especially here in the United States? That is the grounds for folks. This could be literally internal conflict and internal infighting. I wouldn't say not so much in Europe, but definitely here in the United States. Definitely here in the United States. Hey, Catholic Charities, if you can just break me off a little bit of bread, break me off a little bit of dough. I'm just saying, the least that y'all can do. Why was it a couple of weeks ago that Trump went after Catholic Charities with utilizing the IRS and lawfare? Because they knew that this was coming. Don't worry about the Pope. We're the moral authority. So much for the ecumenicisms. Y'all realize that the word of the Pope has literally caused nations to be enslaved. So what do you think that this is gonna what do you think that's gonna happen now? This to me actually gives the Cassius Bella, the moral right, the proclivities, the sanction of Europeans trying to distance themselves. Hey, look, we were trying to get away from that, and guess what the US is gonna do? They're gonna jump hook, line, and sinker into the moral depravity. But they're gonna call it good, right? No, that was good. That wickedness was good. That wickedness made us great again. And that's what we need to do. We need to put these folks back in chains. Do you understand? They're already saying that. They've been saying it. Do you see right now why in less than 30 days, I would say we're in the 30 to 45 day window, 5 to 6 week window, when that 14th Amendment comes back? Well, the word says that, if you love your master, then put that owl in your ear, and we're not saying an owl per se, but hey, give yourselves that digital mark, that digital tattoo. I would not be surprised that they start to roll out the celebrities. Excuse me. And those celebrities, will be, this is a new fashion. Look, skin augmentation. It's a new fashion. Who knows what they'll use? Nicki Minaj, who knows? That's when we'll be saying, yeah, they're getting desperate. Yeah, they're getting a little desperate over here. We can see it. Look, they know that there's a monetary recompense coming. That's really not what they're afraid of. What they're afraid of is the fact that their enslavement, which is what it is going to be far worse. We would have healed Babylon, would have, could have healed Babylon. We would have healed her. DT, let me bring this comment on up. He said, so it's the Pope's statement, sort of partial fulfillment of Albert Pike's letter. When he talks about the destruction of the Christian faith, I'm talking about internally. I would actually argue yes. Yes. Could we say that yesterday the concept of Christianity died? Or can we say that the concept of Euro Christianity died yesterday? Copella says definitely. What does that do? That trickles down. That trickles down to every church. What is the doctrine? What is the dogmatic approaches? What is the thought process of what you get taught in seminary? Yeah, brother Asaph and I did have this discussion earlier today. It's going to be a Protestant Catholic internal division. Remember, everybody was coming together. Shout out to Gates of Holda. Everybody was coming together. They're the new way forward and new and new and new. Well, you got to remember, for things to grow, certain things have to die. They're trying to kill this harlot. That's what they're trying to do. Let's kill this system. The system has brought us nothing but pain. Bring the flatteries to the system. And now they can't run away. Now they're scared. Now they are not looking forward to their judgment. Boy, do you think that that's a dampener? That would be a dampener here come Sunday. Well, Pastor, what do you think about what the Pope said? Well, Pastor, what do you think? Well, Pastor, is this a blight? Well, Pastor, what does that mean? Do we need to then repair and restore? Is it more than just seeking forgiveness? No, well, yes. Well, no, well, yes. Now they're going to be thrown into a state of confusion because you can't deny that. You can't deny the moral argument of that. This to me, this is why I said, listen, we're living in one of the greatest times in human history. If you cannot see this, I don't know what to tell you. Not only am I getting my popcorn, I'm about to get me on Temu. I'm about to get me a Temu popcorn machine. It's gonna be like 1/20th the original size of them little old school popcorn machines. It's basically less than a microwave bag. Because the reality is, did you know what that did? That indemnified us. Do you know that that was actually a protection? That indemnified us? That caused us, hey, listen, you can't blame us. According to the Pope, look, we've been taking the blame. We've been taking them L's. Don't blame us. They lost the moral high ground. So yes, they had to intensify the strikes. They had to restrike. Oh well, we're just trying to make sure that Iran knows that that we're they couldn't even get a story straight out of CENTCOM. Why'd you strike this? Oh well, surface to air missiles. They had to strike because they had to strike out. They had to hit something. They had to strike out on their loss. They took a moral loss. That's the moral L. Because what did they just do? Do you know what the Pope just did? The Pope just handed Iran a ton of moral ammunition. Take that. Here you go. Let me feed that into your machine gun. All them chain links are just falling. The Pope was literally Iran's A gunner. You need some more ammo? Ammo out. There you go. Let me feed it into this 50 cal. Slapping the case and cover over it. It's funny, but it's really the worst position that they could ever be in, ever. Because now here comes all of a sudden. Well, if the Pope is going to go to that moral argument, well, let me just explain this. Let's explain that. Well, not only do you see what they're going to do, they're going to start raising the stakes on each other. It's hilarious because you can see that happening. Oh yeah, well, it wasn't just about slave trade. It was also because they were the Israelites. We didn't enslave the Israelites. See that? We didn't know anything about Jacob. Y'all did. Well, we tried to stop the United States, but they wanted to keep enslaving the Israelites. Well, back to Iran's court. Well, we've been telling them that they're the Israelites, kind of, sort of, but we've been protecting them. Well, the last Pope that went to Sudan and kissed the feet of Israelites. Listen, we don't think that they'll go that far. I didn't think that the Pope made the announcement, but guess what they'll do? You know that commercial? What would you do for a Klondike bar? What would you do for some golden oil? And then they would do those like ridiculous demonstrations. I still remember the one guy that was a middle-aged guy bouncing on the balance beam and doing gymnastics in the commercial, eating the Klondike bar. That back in the day cartoon or show or commercial. When resources are gone, people are going to start running their mouths. I told you that. Everybody's going to be saying something, and it's going to be hilarious. And all the while, they're going to say over here in the United States, that's not true. That hasn't been verified. That's not it. You see what I'm saying? They're going to be looking at all the truth, and then they're going to be condemning it. Because again, what's happening is the curse is reversing. That's I was the one who has to do the I'm the little teapot dance or Klondike bar. What would you do for some golden oil? Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, they can create money all they want. But guess what you can't create? You can't create gold. You can't create oil. You can't create these resources. Oh, boy. They're in trouble. So now you're actually seeing their kingdom falling apart because now people are going to start fighting. Nope. You're going to fight for the lie. You're going to fight for the truth. At the same time, they're all fighting to try to save the system. I'd say give it 2 weeks. It's still taking time for people to process this. All right. Well, family, let me get up on out of here. This has been a very interesting 24 hours, to say the least. Thank you, family, for your prayers. Thank you, family, for your support, your gifts. It truly does mean a lot. It really does. Next week, I'll be returning to my summer hours. My summer hours. We'll see how much my voice will be able to hold on up, and we'll chop up some things and see how this thing is moving. I'm telling you, this was going to be one of the hottest summers on out there, and it's because their spiritual block is literally getting hot. Their spiritual block is literally getting hot. So with that being said, I got to get up on out of here. And with that, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom, peace and blessings, Yasharel.